Shotguns are no longer just for home defense, they're also for drone defense.
Every US Army infantryman needs to be issued a shotgun as a last line of defense against FPV explosive drones, even if it's just the last resort. Over the past year, shotguns have increasingly become the weapon of choice for infantry to take down drones in the field. The US military has even taken notice, and in response, they're asking the defense industry to develop specialized counter-drone shotgun shells that fire nets and detection systems. In this episode, we'll investigate why the US Army is investing millions of dollars into developing drone sensing devices for grunts. We'll find out if the shotgun is legitimately an effective solution or just another combat trend destined to fade away.
A lot of you guys have been asking me how I'm holding up now that I'm back from Ukraine, and I really appreciate the concern, but the truth is, I've never been better. I'm sleeping down here in my basement now because I'm safe from attack drones, and only going out at night makes planning my social life a lot easier. But now that I have you here for a second, I'm excited to announce that I'm hosting a weekly combat footage analysis program on Pepperbox TV. It's completely uncensored and ad-free, so we can analyze tank combat in Ukraine and close quarters firefights in Gaza. One of the limitations of YouTube is I have to sanitize the realities of warfare, and I think people should see war for what it really is. I've already created 6 exclusive episodes on there, and there's a 14-day free trial, so you could go over, check it out, and decide if it's for you first, and then cancel if it's not. And going forward after that, it's $7.99 a month if you like it, and there's exclusive access on top of that to Habitual Line Crosser, Angry Cops, Fat Electrician, Donut Operator, and Brandon Herrera's content. So if you want to support the journalism that I do, this is a great way to do that, and I've been overwhelmed by the support in the comment section there. So just click the link in the description or the pinned comment below to check it out.
The first thing you need to know is what's at stake. Currently, kamikaze explosive drones account for roughly 80 to 90% of armored losses suffered in the war in Ukraine, with similar numbers for infantry losses as well. Everyone, myself included, expected laser guns and high-tech smart scopes would solve the problem first, but in reality, low-tech, reliable shotguns are the practical answer. It's like my old squad leader used to always tell me, keep it simple, stupid. In 2024, there were viral videos of troops successfully spanking drones with 12-gauge shotguns at the last second, just barely saving themselves and their buddies. Major arms dealers saw what the infantry was doing, and they knew that this was their moment. Benelli, the manufacturers behind the US Marines combat shotgun, answered the call by producing their new M4 AI Drone Guardian. The AI in the name doesn't stand for artificial intelligence, it's not the ChatGPT of shotguns, it actually stands for Advanced Impact, which is their brand new patented system that allows for a larger, longer cone inside the barrel. Basically, according to Benelli, it fires the pellets at a faster velocity with a longer cone, which penetrates drone hardware deeper. And I love penetrating drones deeply. Would this be used for breaching a door, or what is like the combat tactical purpose of this weapon?
It was not primarily designed to be used as a breaching shotgun, but it definitely has been, because if you're in the military, you're infantry, and this is the only shotgun you have, this is what you're going to use. So it was really designed primarily to be like a fighting primary weapon. You're the guy going in the door, you've got buckshot or slugs loaded up in this thing, and you're going to be engaging, targets in a room.
Head of sales at their defense division told Defense News, the use of different types of guns in this capacity in Ukraine has accelerated the demand that we get for our shotguns to be sold in a counter-drone configuration. We've received a lot of requests for information for this from NATO countries, end quote.
Babe, come upstairs, it's time for dinner.
Let's eat down here, it's safer from the drones.
Chris, there's no attack drones in Jersey.
That's exactly what the drones want you to think.
The shotgun is really feeling itself right now, and it should. Go ahead, take the W. This is your time to shine. And if you think this tactic isn't relative to the US military, just take a look at how the US Marines are running training exercises on how to take down drones with shotguns. Personally, I think this is awesome. This kind of practice is even starting to happen is amazing. This is a really great first step, right? But there might be a small problem that I see here. From watching the training footage, this doesn't look to me like a realistic representation of what it would be like to have an FPV flying drone at you at 200 meters per second. Maybe that wasn't the point of the training, maybe they are doing that training somewhere else and I just don't see it, but I understand this is just a first step. Over in Ukraine, they're running some pretty realistic training, but I can't even imagine how many range safety violations this would be in the United States. There's definitely an RSO watching this right now, going red in the face over how many safety violations are happening here. But balancing safety with realism and acceptable training risk is always going to be the problem. I was on a range once where a soldier accidentally fired a round right next to his buddy's head, and we weren't even on the range yet, so I can only imagine how terrible this might go. In a sign of the times changing, the Ukrainian army is doubling down on shotguns, purchasing 4,000 of the semi-auto BTS-12 shotgun from Turkey. These are actually a bullpup shotgun, which is pretty badass. It makes for a longer barrel for increased range while staying compact and small. Meanwhile, Russia's also running training as well, but with a automatic 12 gauge shotgun. So you can see everyone's using different solutions here. You got bullpups, you got automatic shotguns. Automatic shotguns are something that currently aren't in the US main inventory. So I'm curious, what would you go with? The automatic spray and pray method or semi-auto? Personally, I think I might want that full send mode. I mean, the infamous AA-12 was in consideration to be adopted by the Marines in 2004, but they ended up deciding they didn't need that extra volume of fire, that full send it at the time, although that might be true now. 2 decades later, the AA-12 might deserve a second look. Consider the fact that the FPV drones can fly at 20 meters per second. That doesn't give you much reaction time at all. When I was in Ukraine, I can confirm that you can only hear an FPV drone when it's within 50 meters of you. So you essentially have 2 seconds to find it, aim, and shoot it if you're not already looking for it. There are several solutions to this problem that the US military is investigating currently, ranging from ammo to detection methods for your average infantryman. One new addition to the toolkit is a new type of anti-drone shotgun ammo. Skynet Drone Defense is the main company I've seen developing this. It basically shoots out a web like a Spider-Man shotgun. The way they describe it is a 5-foot diameter web is fired out, although there's also a twin shot version that claims you can double your net's diameter. The way it works is that it fires this 5 tethered segments which create a capture net to trap the drone's propellers, which bring it back down to God's good green earth. Evidence that these are promising comes from the fact that the US Air Force tested 600 of the rounds in 2017. According to the Air Force contract, quote, the Skynet gun system has been demonstrated at several locations in varying conditions during testing as part of the 2016 Air Force Research Laboratory Commander's Challenge. It would have called for an additional 6,400 shells to be purchased if the initial testing phase had proved beneficial. I wasn't able to find additional information on whether or not they ended up purchasing more, but I think I would have been able to find some public press releases around it if that had happened, but let me know if I missed anything in the comment section. The Air Force uses a Remington Model 870 shotgun. In order for those nets and that special type of ammo to be fired, it would have needed to install a choke tube with rifling so that the Skynet would be able to spin out the muzzle properly. But the only main problem that I can see here is range. They claim it has a range of 128 meters, but that sounds impossible to me. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but the max range that I've seen these nets tested at is 50 meters and below. There's a YouTube channel out there that ran some tests with it, and they said that they had some limitations, but that it did seem to work well at short distances, and it does what it claims to do, except possibly at those shorter distances than what they say. There's also reportedly an ammo in development that shoots out a thick liquid substance. I kid you not. Sounds kind of gross or maybe sexy, I don't know, I can't decide which. But the liquid goo is supposedly designed to immobilize a drone's rotors. Sounds like we're Nickelodeon sliming drones now. These methods might end up being a complete dead end to nowhere, but I think they're still better than nothing. And that should be the slogan here today. Shotguns. They're better than nothing, you were telling me a little bit about the recoil as well. It's not too bad compared to other shotguns?
No, like definitely compared to a pump action shotgun or something where you got nothing and you're shooting like magnum loads, that's starting to hurt your shoulder after a while. This, because of the way the gas system is designed on this gun, it won't cycle some of the super extra light rounds that you wouldn't be using in combat anyway. But like with standard 12 gauge, shooting this thing is like a dream. It's got so little recoil for like a full power 12 gauge shotgun. It's awesome.
And what happens when you have legitimately nothing? You end up like these Taiwan soldiers who were on guard duty in a guard tower when Chinese surveillance drones hovered over their position, and they had to resort to throwing rocks up in the air. Somebody get these guys some boomsticks. I also recommend at least 2 soldiers are already with their secondary shotgun out in their hand at the low ready, while their M4 is on their back slung, so you have time to engage these drones since you only have a couple of seconds to hit them. I think spreading out further than before when you're on patrol is also important. We used to talk about 3 to 5 meters. I think it might be a good idea to double that to 10 meters now. Here's my average grunt advice. In your 9-man squad, I recommend that you assign 2 predetermined drone lookouts who are responsible for watching sectors up high, scanning left to right. When we patrolled in Iraq, we had guys watching the front, the rear, and the sides, every sector, 360-degree security. Now you need to also have a guy looking up in the sky, which should be easy for some of us space cadets out there. Those are the guys who will be monitoring the new wearable device that alerts you to look where the drones are coming from. Sir, did you just say you have more stupid heavy gear for me to wear? My back pain is tingling with excitement. Oh wait, no, that's my slip disc. But I want to go back for a second just to a point that we were talking about a minute ago about how it's difficult to hear the drones until they're already on top of you and it's too late. So that's something that we don't just have to accept as a given forever. We grunts don't have to lay down and eat that and say, yes, please, thank you, can I have some more? The US military put out a request for proposal, an RFP, basically asking the scientist types to come up with a way to detect, track, and identify drones from further away. And they want it for the squad and platoon level. So here's what it reads. Passive detection system that can detect UAS using acoustic or radio frequency detection. Sensors should be body worn with limited impact on primary mission equipment. Components may include a handheld tablet, bracelet, earpiece, or glasses that receives alerts, warnings, notifications from an external sensor, radar, and/or passive detection systems. I'm not excited about the prospect of having to potentially wear additional weight and sensors. That sounds lame. But if it means that I can see where drones are coming from, like the sensor you have in Aliens 2 with the beep beep, I might not complain as much. So basically what that RFP is requesting is that maybe something like the IVAS where you have goggle system on and it tells you where a drone is coming from. This is actually kind of crazy what they're proposed to create here. And it would use either radio signals or other detection means. Could be an earpiece. So that means that your team leader, squad leader, or even your regular Joe would have something that could hear the buzz from 200 meters away and tell him where it's coming from so you could get your shotgun already aimed in the right direction, which would give you a huge advantage in shooting them down because that's the main problem. All right, sounds good to me. Let the Army cook. For once, they're working on something that doesn't sound completely retarded. The proposal goes on for the higher power platoon level one, which would likely be for on top of a vehicle that could do the same thing but more effectively. This is just me talking out of my ass here, but I've seen some pretty good ear protection, that you use for the headphones. So they're usually used for shooting ranges, but it only cuts out the loud gunshots, but they can amplify certain sounds and might make it easier to hear drones from further away. Did I just win the contract yet? Do I get that defense money? The RFP goes on to ask for quote-unquote enhanced ammunition, although what that exactly means remains to be seen. It could mean rifle rounds that fire a kind of buckshot, which is something we've seen Ukrainian and Russian troops do already. Specifically, the RFP notes that this ammo in the US military would be for existing firearms, quote, buckshot-like 5.56, 7.62, 50 caliber. Wait a second, the US military is looking for a buckshot version of the 50 caliber ammo? Okay, that is a cursed idea. I'm tempted to ask Brandon Herrera if his AK-50 could fire buckshot rounds now. Now, I'm imagining him winning the government contract and getting into defense production. At the very least, buckshot 50 caliber rounds would be an absolute nightmare for drones. The Armorer bench did a great job covering the development of anti-drone small arms. They followed telegram posts from Russian soldiers who claimed that they used rifle rounds that fire a kind of buckshot to take down FPV drones, as seen here in this clip. They also found a clip of Ukrainian soldiers test firing his AK with buckshot bullets, basically turning your rifle into a shotgun of sorts. Granted, we're yet to see whether this shotgun tactic is a fad or a trend that will stick around, but either way, it tells us something about how quickly regular Joes are able to adapt old solutions in new ways. The reason why shotguns are being used against drones is because buckshot can carry 400 to 500 pellets that spray out in a cone. It actually makes it easier to hit a drone than with an automatic belt-fed machine gun. If you're a crack shot with a boomstick, you might be hitting targets 50 meters away, assuming you practice skeet shooting every weekend, which is why I'm proposing to you, Spare Parts Army, I'm proposing that 11 Bravo Infantry should have to go through shotgun skeet shooting as part of basic training going forward. I think part of the reason this is capturing so much attention online right now is because this strange contrast between a 200-year-old technology of buckshot being deployed against this fancy new age drone. Sure, I think there's some survivor bias to these video clips. We don't see the video footage of the times when shotguns failed, but shotguns appear to be better than the other option right now, which is nothing. What makes the Benelli a great choice comparatively to some of these other options is its low felt recoil. Its Argo system uses 2 stainless steel pistons that are located just in front of the chamber. So when a round is fired, the gas from the shot cycles the action by pushing these pistons, which in turn operate the bolt carrier. The gas system spreads out the force of the recoil over a slightly longer duration compared to traditional inertia systems. What all that means is that the recoil feels less sharp for Spaghetti Arms Cappy over here. I don't know about your training that you went through, but we didn't really work with shotguns at all until I got to my unit. I remember one time when I was on a shotgun range, I kicked in the door and I had one of those moments where your brain just turns off and you forget what you're doing. And then I shot all the targets that had pictures of bad guys on them. And then I proceeded to also shoot the 3 civilian targets that I wasn't supposed to even aim at. It might have been the most embarrassing moment of my professional life, and I still don't know what happened to this day. So theoretically, could we arm every US infantryman with a shotgun? The Army has thousands of Mossberg 500s. However, the US Army would likely be using the M26 shotgun, which was acquired in 2011 during the global war on terror. It was originally meant for blowing the hinges off of doors, so could it be repurposed as drone defense? It's got a short 7.5-inch barrel, which means that I probably wouldn't be trusting my life on hitting anything at best past 25 meters. It's incredibly close. They acquired 37,500 of the M26 shotguns. Originally, it was meant for door breaching, for raids that you had to constantly do during the global war on terror. These can even be underslung on your M4 rifle, so you can quickly switch to it. It has a magazine of 5, which gives you a couple of shots to inevitably miss. Between those 2 options, that should be enough to issue them to every frontline infantry squad. Unlike some of the high-tech automatic aiming systems, shotguns with buckshot are incredibly easy to train on and they're very reliable. Don't get me wrong, there's certainly a lot of criticism against the notion of infantry using shotguns or rifles against drones. However, even if it's kind of psychological blankie, a sort of illusion of safety, I won't lie, I would rather take that instead of feeling totally naked, because that might be what you need to tell yourself that you're safe in order to keep putting one foot in front of the other and advancing forward with drones nearby. When I was in Ukraine, the thing that I wanted above all else was a counter drone system, even a non-lethal gun that could fire a net or a blanket, which would have made me feel 20% less scared. But that's important because you want soldiers to feel confident You want them to be able to advance forward. But they aren't just using shotguns. They're also using other small arms, like rifles with smart scopes that track the drone, then only fire the round when the barrel is lined up with the target. Science black magic voodoo going on there, but there's only one problem. That option might work for taking down surveillance drones that are far away, but you won't have that kind of time to aim, line up the shot with a fast, low-flying FPV attack drone. Basically, the way FPV drones work is they operate in teams of two. There's one spotter drone that is flying slower and higher. That's the drone that's giving targeting information and directing the faster-moving attack drone. The shotgun would likely mainly be suitable for taking out the FPV drone. Evidence that this is where the military's head is at comes from the Klein-Brogel Air Base in Belgium. They publicly released that they were adding the integration of the Benelli M4 Super 90 specifically for drone countermeasures. This is notable because the airbase has a large US military presence due to sharing of nuclear weapons here. It's one of only 6 active air bases in 5 European countries that house the B-61 nuclear bomb in an underground WSW weapon storage and security system, which are inside aircraft shelters. Okay, so I don't know if I'm overcome with confidence hearing that all that stands between our nuclear weapons and drones are shotguns, but like I said earlier, it's better than nothing. I'm half joking, there are other defensive systems there of course, but still. Next door in Germany, they've seen drones hovering over their air bases in recent months, and they just recently authorized their soldiers to shoot any spy drones down that they see, which seems obvious to me. That's something that I personally find fascinating about this whole topic, is we're talking about a solution that's been around for ages. Shotguns have been used since the early 1800s as buckshot fired from muskets. They were first used by American soldiers in the Revolutionary War. Then they found new purpose in the emerging realities of trench warfare. World War II was seen as jungle guns in close combat. Today, they've yet again found a new role against drones. Adapt or die. The basic concept of firing multiple pellets to hit a wide spray of area has stayed the same for shotguns, but their purpose on the battlefield has morphed and changed multiple times over the course of 2 centuries of warfare. Not everyone agrees that this is the right direction or strategy. I saw on Army Recognition that the Chief of Staff of the French Army, General Pierre Schill, said that he believed that the widespread use of commercial FPV drones with explosives wouldn't be a thing for a long time. He said, quote, "It's a snapshot in time. Today, the sword, that is, these aerial drones, is powerful, more powerful than the shield, but the shield will improve," end quote. So he's basically saying that pretty soon new counter-drone measures like microwave guns and jammers will make drones ineffective. In the meantime, though, the French army is practicing using shotguns in tandem with jammer guns. Specifically, they adapted the 28-inch barreled version of the Benelli Supernova shotgun. It's like 10 inches longer than you would normally have, and it gives you better velocity to take down drones further away. It also has a big 3.5-inch chamber, so you can load bigger shells. Sometimes it feels like we're living in a simulation that's falling apart, especially when I saw footage of a drone using a shotgun to shoot down another drone. Something about seeing a drone shoot another drone in midair with buckshot, it feels like the fabric of our reality is falling apart. So remember guys, drones are cheap and disposable, you are not. What I'm trying to say to you is that shotguns should be considered seriously, because if these fancy high-tech solutions have trouble actually doing the practical job at hand, then a reliable get-the-job-done solution is needed, and it's like they say, shotguns are better than nothing.